by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. On February 26, 2021, public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town offices at 10 Front Street. As provided in that the public notice, the public may access the meeting online via phone. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting and who that person is, son, daughter, etc., which is required under the right to know law. So I'll start off with, I'm Langdon Plummer, and I am chairman of the Exeter Planning Board, and there is no one with me. How about Miss Jen?
Jen Martell. I am in the room with my husband right now, but he's leaving.
You got thrown out, huh? Chris?
Lane? Me? Oh, I'm alone in the room.
Okay. And Pete Steckler?
Hi, Pete Steckler, alternate. I am alone.
All right. John Gruder?
John Gruder, I am alone.
And Miss Gwen?
Miss Gwen English. I am alone in the room at the moment. Husband and daughter may pass through periodically.
Okay. Re-elected Molly Cowan?
Hey, everybody, here alone in the room.
And Pete Cameron?
Pete Cameron, alone in the room.
Aaron Brown? Didn't hear you, Aaron. It's still not working. Mark?
Mark Detour, alternate, and I am alone.
Okay, and Dave Sharples, our town planner?
Dave Sharples in the room alone.
Okay, Aaron, is your speaker working yet? Microphone? Guess not. Not for me.
If I can just, if the speaker, if your microphone's being an issue, you could try switching to phone audio as an option. If the next to your microphone and there's should be some prompts there. You'll have to use a phone to call in, but it'll pair. Excuse me, it'll pair it with your video. So that's an option.
All right. All right. Attendance is all set. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to check in?
Oh, yes, certainly. Sorry, Nancy, you're sitting right up.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Nancy Belanger, alternate, and I'm alone in the room.
You disappeared in the distance. And Chris, thank you for answering. I just was mixed up. So Chris is not a board member nor an alternate, but he was kind enough to introduce himself. Welcome. Okay. Our agenda this evening, we have a set of minutes from February 11th, a month ago, to take a look at. So I asked the committee of the board to pull those up and see if there are any comments, suggestions, corrections. Have we had a chance to look at them? Do you want to approve them tonight, or would you rather wait till our next meeting? Well, that being the case, I would be entertain a motion to the minutes as presented. Unless we're still looking through them. Where's Pete? Cameron? Oh, that's his head. There he is.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 11th, 2021, just to start the discussion.
Thank you. Again, any corrections? Pete Stackler? Pete Cameron?
Look good.
Yeah.
I have one question on page 5.
Okay, Gwen.
It's the last sentence. And maybe someone else can read it and it will make sense, but construction costs are high and have the lowest retail value in the town's most valued wetlands. I'm not sure. I don't.
Not sure what they're trying to say there.
I'm not sure what that means. So I guess I'd strike it unless we can figure out what it means.
Okay. Let's see.
Otherwise, these are excellent minutes. Daniel, you're doing a great job.
Okay.
I think he's referring to the lots have the lowest retail value because of the setback and everything and the shoreline protection. But it's probably the line's not necessary, the sentence.
You want to just delete it?
Probably the easiest.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
If everybody else is.
Any other comments?
That was all I had, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Is there a second for John's motion to approve with that as corrected?
I'll second.
Thank you, Gwen. Roll call vote. Excuse me. Get my list out. Aaron Brown?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, you're back. Welcome. Anybody with you tonight?
No.
Thank you. All right. Pete Cameron.
Yes.
Molly Cowan.
Yes.
Gwen English.
Yes.
Dan Martell.
Yes.
John Gruder.
Yes.
And I vote yay. They pass unanimously. Thank you very much. We appreciate the effort and the work that Daniel does with our minutes. All right. Next on the agenda is application of McFarland Ford Realty Trust for site plan review and wetland conditional use permit for the purpose of construction of a vehicle storage lot on the property located at 110 Holland Way. Subject properties are located in the C2 Highway Commercial Zoning District and are identified as tax map parcels number 51-14-1 and 51-17. Planning board case number 21-2. Before I asked to see if it's ready to be heard, I just see if Dave had any comments.
It's ready. It's complete for review purposes.
Okay.
Comment. So if you accept it, then I will provide my comments.
All right.
I'll move we accept.
All right. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. Aaron Brown?
Yes.
Molly Cowan?
Yes.
Jen Martell?
Yes.
Pete Cameron?
Yes.
Gwen English?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So Dave, I'll turn
So do I.
Oh, John, yes. Thank you.
You got to watch him, John.
That's what happens when you're at the bottom of the list, John. I missed you.
Every minute.
Okay. So, Dave, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant is seeking a site plan and wetlands conditional use permit for proposed construction of a vehicle storage lot on property located at 110 Holland Way. The applicant did submit a site plan and supporting documents dated January 5th and February 2nd, and these materials are enclosed for your review. A staff meeting with the applicant was conducted via Zoom on February 18th, and the plan and the documents have also been reviewed by Underwood Engineers, UEI. Both the staff comment letter dated February 22nd and the UEI comments dated February 19th were enclosed in your packets. The applicant did appear before the Conservation Commission at their February 9th meeting to review the conditional use permit and the New Hampshire DES minimum impact dredge and fill permit applications. I did provide a memo from Andrew Koff, the chairman, outlining the commission's recommendations, and they said the following review of the submitted materials and presented information, the Exeter Conservation Commission voted to recommend approval of the application with the following conditions. And I'll just read them to you and we can revisit them later. Inclusion of and adherence to the porous pavement maintenance specifications in the stormwater maintenance agreement. The addition of an identifying sign to indicate the presence of porous pavement on site. I won't read the third one because they asked for functions and values and that has been submitted. And execution of a deed restriction containing use limitations and public access guarantee equivalent to that provided in the adjacent Route 88 connector easement, book 4326, page 1590, attached here too. The applicant did submit revised plans that were also included that were received on March 4th. And they responded to the comments, both UEI and staff comments. And, any matters left with UEI can, be handled through a condition of approval. There are a couple of things to note because we had asked for some things and we got the plans on the day I wrote the memo. So I didn't really have time to get into the review, and based on I asked for some stuff about the lighting, and they did provide information on lighting, but in their notes, they say that the lighting's going to be reduced by 50% at midnight, but our regs say they're turned off or reduced in intensity by 10 p.m. unless approved by the board. So I think the board's going to have to make that exception. I don't know what their operating hours are. You might want to ask that if they're open till, after 10. But there's a discrepancy there, and the regs say that the planning board has to approve that lighting. The other thing I noted was I emailed the chair today because I was looking at the existing gravel parking area to remain on the plans, and I looked at some aerial photography from 2010, and it appeared it was all grass. And I alerted the applicant because we didn't find any approval for the gravel area because since then, but they responded by saying that it was historically there. Because I was going to recommend, including it as part of this approval. They said it was historically there. They sent me some Google images. It doesn't appear that it's to the extent it was, but I just would ask the applicant to explain how it became, let me try to share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
I don't see an image, but.
Oh, you don't see an image?
We see your screen, but there's no document that I think you want.
Hold on. Okay.
Try the other. There you go. Yep.
That it? Okay.
Grass.
Yeah, it appears as grass. That's what I said. That they had said this was gravel at that time with grass growing through it. It's definitely all gravel from edge to edge as of now, and actively being used. So I would ask the board and ask the applicant to kind of give the history of this site and how it went from this in 2010 to what it is today. This is about an 11,500 square foot area, and bringing in gravel and disturbing the vegetation. It's in a wetland buffer as well. Could very likely have triggered a conditional use permit and site plan approval. But they say it existed prior. So I just encourage the board to, kind of make a determination on this, because it was my recommendation to include it in this site plan to formalize it. But I would ask the applicant to explain how it became from this to what it is today. And they are asking for, as far as waivers, let me stop sharing my screen there. As far as waivers, they are asking for a waiver from the landscape for parking areas and new roadways. That's all they're doing is a parking area. So basically it's a waiver from the landscaping standards. So we did ask them we did ask them to provide a list of the trees that were, identify the trees along the edge. And they've done that, and they've listed which ones are going to be removed and which ones are going to be retained. I do question there's some that are being retained that are literally feet away from the edge of pavement. I would just, I would ask the board to make sure how those will be protected during construction. And that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So who is speaking for McFarland this evening?
Chris, I'll
Chris,
start.
okay, go ahead, start. Go ahead, Chris,
Okay.
start, please.
Firstly, thank you for everyone taking the time out of your day to hear our site plan for proposed vehicle storage at McFarland Ford. My name is Chris Lane, and I'm the general manager at the store and also recently became the president. We've been selling and servicing cars in Exeter since 1957, when my wife's grandfather and great-grandfather started the business in a converted barn on Court Street. So a lot of things have changed since 1957, and we've moved in Exeter a few times. But our dedication to our employees and our customers has not. It's been consistent. We're in a great spot and with a great community, and we're very happy to be here. We've enjoyed a lot of growth over the past decade. It's meant more inventory, more customer vehicles in service, and increased employee counts, which are all positive things. In addition to that, we recently won the state of New Hampshire bid for municipal vehicles, police interceptors, and the like, which we've been trying to achieve for the past few years. We're very fortunate that both Exeter Police, Fire, and DPW have all chosen us to acquire their vehicles as of late. So, onto the site plan. When the opportunity arose to purchase this parcel, to potentially purchase this parcel, we jumped at the chance knowing that we were fairly constrained on space. Having a storage lot contiguous with the property is really important in today's market and today's world of immediate gratification. We've found recently, and in the past couple of years, customers expect and really deserve an Amazon Prime-like shopping experience where the transition from digital to in-person retail is pretty seamless. That means that F-150 Lariat that you saw for 50 grand with this equipment, better be in that parking space when you get there, everything matching right down to the VIN number. A lot of the transaction is happening online, and folks want to come in, grab what they saw, and be off. So we've off-site, and whether it's 10 minutes away, 15 over at our other store in Hampton, and we've found that it's created some friction in the process. So COVID has shifted that whole digital retailing into higher gear. It was always coming, but that's kind of accelerated the process. Those factors, in addition to Ford no longer producing passenger vehicles like the Fiesta, Focus, and Fusion, have lent itself to us selling and servicing much larger vehicles, SUVs, trucks. Those parking spots that were taken by those passenger cars are replaced with Explorers, F-Series, and Broncos. So they're larger vehicles. But I've included a letter from Ford in the packet, which kind of details the requirements for Ford facilities, new facilities going forward, and it helps support our need based on how many vehicles we sell a year, of how many spots they'd require us to have if we were to build a new store. Fortunately, we don't have to do that, so we don't need all the new requirements, but we are lacking in a lot of areas, particularly parking. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you all for your time tonight. And I'd like to hand it over to Eric from Jones and Beach.
Thank you. Eric?
Thank you, Chris. If it's all right with the board, I'd love to share my screen.
Please do.
Okay.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
That's right. Can the board see that?
I would say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me just open up by kind of, for members of the board who aren't familiar, where the proposed project is going to be located. We're right on Holland Way here. Of course, the dealership's right on the corner of Portsmouth Ave and Holland Way. This is the parcel that we're looking to utilize. The majority of the parcel is going to remain undisturbed, and we're proposing a deed restriction on that land to keep it undisturbed, and we're focusing our efforts close to Holland Way. We're utilizing a existing driveway that McFarland Ford has along Holland Way, and coming across using that curb cut on Holland Way. We didn't look into going directly to Holland Way. The main reason for that is it's a limited access highway. The hurdles in trying to accomplish that when there's a existing driveway for McFarland Ford right there, we're just deemed to be too great. With the driveway, we do have a wetland impact that's being taken care of by Gove Environmental. That's going through all the proper channels with the state. Going into the site layout, if I could just zoom in here a little bit. The storage lot is located, as I said, right along Holland Way. We come in with a driveway that jumps across that wetland and then opens up into the parking field. It's a very condensed design. It's not a typical layout for a parking lot. This is only for the storage of inventory for McFarland Ford. We're proposing that this is an employee only parking field, just for the storage of inventory. That's why you see the double stacking there. It's a nice compact design. One of the things that was driving that was our proximity to the wetlands in the rear. To really cut down on the impact, we felt that the double stacking design was the right way to go. You can see for snow storage, we're focusing on storing it to the rear and then the sides of the main parking field, and then a small storage area up here towards the main curb cut that will help with some of the snow storage for the remainder of the driveway that's closer to the curb cut. Looking at treatment for stormwater, there's two main systems that we're using. The smaller of the two is a treatment swale, which is designed to NHDES standards, that treats with a curb right here a chunk of the driveway where the wetland crossing is up to the McFarland Ford driveway. That treats the stormwater prior to discharge. And the primary treatment system is porous pavement. As Mr. Sharple said, we had several meetings with the Conservation Commission. We had great dialogue with them. And in working with them, we felt that porous pavement was a really good choice here, given the proximity to the wetlands, the buffer impact. Porous pavement is great because it reduces your impact. Given the area of disturbance, we don't need a big surface pond to accomplish treatment. We can just use the footprint that we have. So we're proposing porous pavement. It functions by allowing stormwater to exfiltrate and infiltrate directly into the gravel material underneath the pavement. A large portion of it will infiltrate right back into groundwater, right back into the ground, and the remaining excess stormwater gets collected in under drains, which are located every 50 feet, and then they discharge to the rear of the property. Stormwater heads towards the wetland, and we have a proposed culvert crossing, and then that then exits the property under Holland Way with a existing culvert located here. Moving to the next sheet. We're proposing 7 light poles. These are going to be dark sky compliant light poles, situated, around the perimeter of the lot to provide lighting. Just touching while I'm talking on lighting, I know Mr. Sharples brought up the reduction in lighting. We are amendable to adjusting that to 10 a.m. if that's something that the board wishes to have for that reduction time. Moving on to my next topic here, I wanted to hit on the waiver letter with a little more detail. The waiver letter has some good information in it, but I wanted to kind of touch base on the specific points within the site plan regulations regarding waivers. Section 13.7 in the regulations goes into this. 13.71 asks if there's any detrimental impacts to safety, health, welfare, or damage to other property value or property. The proposed project is it's not a very close proximity to other abutters, especially residential. It's set back away from Holland Way with a proposed existing tree line to remain, and we feel that there's no adverse impacts to the public. 13.72 requests for a waiver is based on unique to the property for which the waiver is sought and are not applicable generally to other properties. We feel this is a unique situation. It's not a typical parking lot where you'd have customers driving up, getting out of their vehicles, going to a retail type store and coming back to their vehicles. It's just for storage of inventory, and it's just for employees to move inventory around and get them up to where the customers would see them up by the main building. So with the lack of customer and public interaction with this lot, we felt that landscaping was not warranted. Items 13.7.3 touches on, is there anything particular with the physical surrounding shape or conditions specific to the property that would cause particular hardship to the owner? Not just an inconvenience, but a hardship. If the strict letter of the regulation was carried out. One of the reasons primarily for the layout we have is we wanted to keep the buffer impacts to the wetland as small as possible. So we kept the layout very compact, very dense, try to keep the existing tree line as close to the disturbance as possible. And we didn't want to disturb existing trees if we could prevent it. Implementing a landscape design, we believe, would result in additional impacts as with loss of parking, and expanding the storage lot would provide additional impacts to the buffer. 13.7.4 for the waiver. Granting this waiver will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulations. Given this unique use of it being only a storage lot with no interaction with the public and customers, we feel that, and then given the fact that we're doing minimum impact to the tree line to the best extent possible, we feel like the intent is being met. And the last one is that it doesn't vary from the provisions of the zoning. We feel that the proposed tree line complies with the zoning, and that this is primarily a site plan regulation waiver. Moving on from that, I just wanted to go over the process real quick of what we've been through up to this point. I know Mr. Sharples hit on this. We've had 3 meetings with the Conservation Commission. We did have that TRC meeting with comments coming from Mr. Sharples, the DPW, Underwood Engineers, and we feel like we got some really great feedback. We responded to those comments, and the proposed design is sitting before you this evening. And we feel like we've come before you with a successful design. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or any comments from the board. I can jump on those comments from Mr. Sharples now or later. I'll leave that to the board. But thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments on the part of the board?
Lang, I'll ask a couple if you'd like.
Sure, John.
Why don't we go into the grass/gravel parking area that Dave was talking about? Get our answer to that.
Okay.
Give us a little history on that. If someone who's familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. I can jump in on that. So, the property, utilizing Google Earth, I'm able to go back in time a little bit here. Right. The farthest back I was able to go was 1992, which the board can see here. The area we're talking about here is right here. This is back before Holland Way was even there.
Right. Okay.
You can see the dealership here, and Holland Way, when it goes in, is going to come right through here. But this area right here, it's a grainy photo. It's from way back from 1992, but this area is from all the way back then disturbed. Appears to be a gravel-like use, and appears to be some larger vehicles. I think those might be even storage units being staged on that location. Jumping forward, there's a big jump in time. It goes to 2003. And you can see here, that's that same location. Now Holland Way is installed. And this area right here, you can see that lighter color. This is gravel. You can see some vehicles stored there. From what I've seen, from what I've been out there, that is a gravel pad. The edges of it are fairly defined before it drops off to when it heads towards the wetlands. It appears to me that this has been a disturbed gravel pad from back to all the way to 92. Mr. Sharples is definitely correct that there's been times where a lack of use of that pad has caused a lot of grass to come in. So there have been instances where it's been far greener than when it's being primarily used. A lack of use on this pad seems to be tied, and Chris kind of spoke to this fact today when I spoke to him. During the economic downturn around 08, inventory on the lot dropped. There weren't a lot of people buying new vehicles, and this gravel pad that was being used was no longer in use. But the underlying soils were still gravel. Weeds and grass are very resilient, and if you leave an area undisturbed, they're going to come in like grass, and it could get thick. But Chris indicated to me that they won't use lawnmowers out there in those times, those periods where the grass was coming in. It would could damage the lawnmowers. They primarily would use weed whackers out there because of that gravel pad underneath. So
it looks like you're paving your driveway over that.
Yes,
with traditional pavement, not the impervious.
Yep, you're 100% correct. We are proposing to cut through that pad site with our driveway. So that chunk of the gravel pad would, as a part of this application, become pavement. This pocket below the driveway is now going to become grass, and we'll loam that and seed it, and it would become a lot more hydraulically reminiscent of a traditional lawn to the rear of it, because that's where that treatment swale is going. The remainder of what's left of it is to the north here, and we're proposing to to leave it as it is, rather than disturb it. Just to leave it as it is, to keep the disturbance for the project to a minimum.
May I ask, like, may I ask, because there was a lot of grass in that, photo. It is all gravel now. I mean, it looks like fairly new gravel. Can you explain how did it get from when it was grassed? I mean, you didn't just mow it and the grass went away. I mean,
I
can. Well, Chris, yeah, you can.
Oh yeah, I can take that. Oh yeah, no, there's been an amount of gravel in there for as long as I can remember. As long as I've been there. We park cars on there as long as I can remember. In this instance, back then we didn't, but when's
the last time you put gravel in there?
Oh, probably 2017, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. We've reshaped it and covered. Yeah.
It seems like it's actively being. That's what I thought. It's actively being improved and gravel added. That's.
We'll fix it, but we're not. You know what I mean? But
okay. I got it.
It's not an appealing. The whole entrance on Holland Way and that section isn't been a historically appealing entrance to our facility. I think what we're doing now will really make, with more vegetation, more adding loam and getting rid of some of that, will make it a more appealing.
But there's no plan to pave that section of the park. You're just going to leave it gravel.
No, we've known. I know that's not in the plan to pave it. No.
Are you going to plan to use it for storage off and on? Vehicle storage or display?
I would use it for vehicle storage. We generally try and keep people away from there because it's not a
right.
It's not a so if someone wants a vehicle that's in that way, we'll go get it for them and bring it up front. So with the addition of this, I would see it being used less, certainly.
Okay.
Which would be great. Honestly, it'd be easier to get things out and it will look nicer.
Pete Cameron, you got your hand up for a question?
Yes, sir. I think I know the answer to the first question. This is going to be for new vehicles, not used vehicles.
That is correct.
Now, how are you going to get the vehicles in there? Will you be bringing in the trailers and taking them off the trailers there? Or will they be taken in individually?
They'll be taken in individually. We don't have I don't believe we'd have the turning radius for a tractor trailer to get in that. We would, and plus with the porous pavement, you wouldn't want to have that. We wouldn't let that heavy of a vehicle go down that way anyway and potentially damage the porous pavement. Our vehicles are taken off their carriers, usually on the back road that we share with Kevin King.
So that'll remain the same. That's your loading unloading area. Yeah.
Yeah, that would remain the same, right? And we'd drive vehicles individually into this new storage area.
Now, the vehicles here will be both of the passenger type as well as small trucks, or will they be anything larger than say the F-150s?
There could be 3/4 ton or 1 ton trucks as well.
And those will all be basically, they'll be stacked. Those will also be stacked, or those be single?
If the room permits, we could, stack them one in front of one another. They vary. The wheelbases vary. So in some instance, we wouldn't be able to stack one behind each other in order to accommodate that aisle through the middle.
Okay, and so therefore there will be no fueling facility back in there? In other words, there'll be no, to gas up a car, you'll bring it up forward.
Yes, we don't gas. Yeah, we don't have any gas, filling abilities at the dealership right now. But no, there's no structures. There's no structures or gas filling going to be built anywhere near here.
So that minimizes the risk of spillage.
Yes.
Correct. From cars with full gas tanks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have some more, but that was my preliminaries.
Okay, good.
Jen Martell has her hand up.
Jen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a couple of questions. I was wondering for Mr. Poulin, if you could clarify where the sloped granite curb occurs. Is that the entire paved area or only a portion?
Yep, absolutely. So I'm only utilizing the slope granite curbing where I need to direct that storm flow for the inlet to the swale. So you can see, I think I call it out on my site plan, if I could pull that up real quick. Oop, I overshot it. Sorry. So I pick up the curbing, curb end right here. So where the porous pavement ends, that's when I need to start grabbing the water because I'm no longer able to go into the porous. So it'll run along the curbing here and then also here to this low point. That low point, I have a riprap apron. I like to use those to grab heavy litter. And then from there, it meanders through the swale prior to discharge. So it's just on this lower edge from the curb connection to the existing driveway to the porous pavement end.
Okay, thank you. So the rest of the parking lot does not have a curb because you don't need it because it's porous, is my understanding. Okay.
Yeah, yep, correct.
So while we're at that treatment swale, I was wondering if you could clarify how that is being vegetated.
Yeah, so with a treatment swale like this, we typically will get the construction grade finalized, and then we'll top that with loam and seed. I think I have. If I can pull up my detail sheet, I can get a little more detail on it. But it's typically loamed and seeded prior to discharge to it. Yeah, 4 inches of loam and seed with mulch on the perimeter. So that's typically what we do, and we won't have discharge enter it until grass is stabilized. So we don't wash it out right off the bat. So we get that stabilized first, get grass growing, and then we can open the curb cut for the discharge.
Okay. And my final question is with regard to planting. I didn't see a planting plan. Does that mean that there is no trees or shrubs being proposed to be planted on this as part of this project?
Yes. So the one waiver we're requesting from the board is landscaping. The way we're trying to still keep green features around the perimeter is a mixture of keeping the disturbance cut line as close to our grading as possible to minimize impact, and then trying to get really aggressive along Holland Way and maintaining as many of those trees as possible. We want to have some of that tree green strip in the front stay. I think touching on Mr. Sharple's comment earlier, I think what we'll probably do is ring those close proximity trees on Holland Way with orange construction entrance. I think that's something we can do. And when a contractor takes this job, it's going to be a goal of the project to coordinate closely and make sure that we try to take care of many of those trees along that buffer as possible, so that we kind of enclose the parking lot within the tree line. I hope we don't lose any of those trees. I know some of them are rather close to the edge of pavement, as close as 5 feet. If any of them during construction that we're hoping to maintain are lost, that's something I can definitely notify the town, notify Mr. Sharples if we've lost any of those, because I do call out which ones we're proposing to remove. So if during construction, we unfortunately lose one that I'm a little tight on the setback on from the disturbance, we can notify the town on that. But that is a waiver we're requesting. Disturbance, like area where we're regrading to existing, standard loam and seed, and get grass to grow on the perimeter before we start transitioning back into a wooded type area.
So is there a reason? I mean, I understand that and you explained the waiver for the landscaped islands in the parking lot and the hardship that would cause, and I understand that. But is there a reason why you can't put landscaping around the perimeter? I mean, I understand wanting to keep the existing trees, but there's areas that are being disturbed and regraded and would be, a great opportunity to plant new trees. Is there a reason why there are no new trees being proposed there?
The primary reason is the unique use that we're proposing. The only people that are going to be going in here are staff. So from an aesthetic point of view, having a lot of landscape trees for this type of lot, we feel like wouldn't be inappropriate given the fact that there's going to be a lack of customer interaction with this lot and public interaction with this lot. It's just staff moving vehicles around are the only people back here. I think what we could do is the one area where there is some sight lines for the public is that this front area where we're trying to propose some maintenance of that existing tree line. I think we could probably add some plantings to that front edge along Holland Way, and maybe punch up that green strip along Holland Way. That's something I think we could probably provide.
Eric, if I could cut in here for a minute. That area along Holland Way right now is kind of a lot of tall weeds, grass. I think it gets mowed with a brush hog, not kind of a regular mower. My plan, I'd like to make it look a lot nicer than that front looks right now, realistically, if that would be okay. Because it's kind of it's not as you drive down that as you approach Portsmouth Ave. It's not an attractive. There's a lot of trash over there. There was a homeless gentleman who was living there quite a bit. It kind of ends up being a catch-all in that area for a lot of stuff from the Hannaford's parking lot and things like that.
Yeah, I think the town probably mows that once or twice a summer. But it is, there's a sidewalk there, so it'd be nice to do something to transition.
Which we could do.
Yeah.
Maybe some, perhaps some arborvitae along that right away, or some sort of classic green tree. That's just an idea, but spaced ever so often along that Holland Way corridor to add some landscaping features to the front there is something I think we could probably put our heads together as a team and come up with something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to see that. And I think, I would kind of like to to reconsider the idea of maybe putting some trees in the areas that are being cleared but don't have steep slopes. I know they're used for snow storage, but they're, if you put a tree in that's big enough, you can sort of have both uses. Just the idea is that trees aren't necessarily just about aesthetics. While they do offer aesthetic value, they offer quite a bit of other value in terms of, I'm not going to get into it, but you're removing quite a bit of green material from this site, and it would be great to put some back. And then the other location I would recommend looking at is that drainage swale at the entrance. I mean, that is an area that, you admitted that is not particularly attractive of a back entrance, and you could put some nice native shrubs in there instead of just grass, and it could be a lot more attractive entrance and also provide, environmental, ecological value to that area. Since it's being cleared anyway, it'd be a good opportunity to make that look nicer and also provide give a little bit back in terms of what's in replacing what's being removed. So Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Jen. Anybody else? Gwen, did you have any questions?
I just want to just say that I completely agree with everything Jen has just said, and I encourage the applicant to take her thoughts seriously and do as much as you can to add some trees. I mean, this is a heat island that you're creating, and as Jen indicated, she understands, and I do too, the need to keep this sort of more of maybe this isn't the right way to word it, but it's kind of an industrial site with lots of cars being parked. And I think it's going to generate a lot of heat. And I think anything we can do, as many trees as you can add around the perimeter would be helpful, because we're losing a lot and it all adds up. It's cumulative as this happens across town, and it definitely has an impact on our environment. So thank you, Jen, for making those comments. That's all I had at the moment, Lang. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. John, is your hand still up?
It is, yeah. Just to Chris and Eric, the front row of that parking lot on Holland is like a showroom for you almost. I mean, I'm at Hannaford. Look across there when I'm coming out of the Hannaford exit and taking a left. I'm going to drive right in front of it, right? I would think that would benefit you if you cleaned that up, made it look attractive, and show off the shiny grille of the F-150 that people could see it. I would think that would make sense to you.
Yeah.
And then I have a question on the, and I don't think putting an arborvitae there would help, because that's going to block things. Something lower. I'll listen to Jen better still. The lighting, 7 lamps, and you're going to reduce the lighting at night, but at no time does it goes off, right?
I'll double check with Chris on that, but I believe it turns off during daylight.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Right.
But
yeah,
overnight.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. You might have, $3 or $4 million worth of vehicles there. I'm sure you need some security lighting. So just so what's the voltage or the wattage at 9 o'clock, and what does it get reduced? You said half of it? But
yep. A drop of 50%. And we had requested they be full till midnight, but if it's something that the board wishes to adjust to the 10 a.m. time frame, I think that's I'll confirm with Chris, but I think that's something where we can be amenable to drop that down at an earlier time.
Does anyone know what
10 p.m. you mean? I think.
I'm sorry. Did I say 10 a.m.? I meant 10 p.m.
That's the second time.
does anyone know when Hannaford reduces their lights?
And who?
Hannaford across the street.
I don't.
At some point, they probably, I'm sure, I don't get down there after 10 at night, but I'm sure they have some lighting on.
John, the other thing I've thought about was having the lights go all the way off and then have motion sensors. We have that at Hampton Ford. All the lights go out 100%, the lights are off, except if there's motion on the lot. And that way, if the police are driving by and a light is on, they know it's because someone was on the lot. I could do that in this area. We just need the motion to be in a way that it wouldn't go off when a vehicle went either way down Holland Way.
Yeah, a wildlife cut across the parking lot.
Yeah, something like that. But it's also a good security measure that if the light's on, there's a reason one of the lights is on.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
And can you explain, just to follow up on that, can you explain, I read the details here. Can you explain, Eric, how that goes to 50% reduction levels? How is that done?
I'd probably have to defer to my lighting consultant on the details, but I do know those LED lights have the ability, there's like a control panel, and they have the ability you can program them, and that the intensity of those LEDs you can set to drop, and then at a certain time they either go off or go back to the full intensity.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see any details on a control panel in the. I have just the. Okay. Yeah, I have the standard cut sheets for how the light looks and some basic info. I could get some additional information to you, Dave, from my lighting consultant, if you wanted some more info on that. Are you saying that he's the one who came up with the 50%?
I know that the ability, with working with him for a long time, I know the ability is there to adjust the intensity. The 50%, that is something that McFarland Ford and myself came up with their typical schedule of what they wanted to see for light reductions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Dave, this is Wayne Morrill from Jones and Beach. This is a similar situation that we just did up at the Porsche dealership up in Stratham, where there's a controller inside of the building that actually controls the lights. And one of the things, like Chris was talking about, one of the things that we see as a major problem is people going onto these lots in the middle of the night and taking parts off of brand new vehicles. At the Porsche dealership, they had somebody steal a $100,000 part and left the car on its rims out there. And so Chris, it's all about security. Security cameras on them so that we have a safe lighting situation out there. But I think Chris brought up a good point, is we could probably drop this down to, after 10 o'clock, down to 0 lighting, and then have motion sensor and get away from the 50% throughout the night.
Yeah, no, I wasn't questioning the need for the lighting. I was looking at the detail, and I wasn't seeing anything like, how do you achieve that 50% reduction? That's all I cared about. So yeah, address that. Thank you.
We do have that technology now on our current LED lights. We have a controller. We have a controller at the dealership where the system's called Dim and Off. It's a Canadian company, and they when we went to LED, we added those smart. It's smart lighting, so we could go turn the lights off, from here right now if we wanted.
Right.
Yeah. More wanted, out of curiosity, wanted to know how you did it. And we can emulate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions? I don't see any. Do you see any hands? Dave, you see any public anywhere?
John Gruder's got his hand up, but I don't know if that's just...
I think that's left over.
He has hand up all meeting. Yeah. There are 0 attendees, so.
Okay.
Hand up.
All right. I'm curious as to whether Mr. Gove has anything to offer regarding our discussions in wetlands in particular. We know he sent us an attachment. Very lengthy detail. It was very interesting.
I don't know. I sometimes wonder how interesting my writing is, given the fact that I I was looking at it just now, and I thought to myself, "Gee, I think I might be falling asleep reading my own writing here." But the key element is whether or not there's going to be any detrimental impact to the prime, and as just by way of some changes that occurred in our legislature, New Hampshire legislature in 2012, the prime wetland boundary here actually expanded. So when I made this delineation out here and my staff flagged this wetland, the edge of the prime was actually somewhat inside the boundary. And as of 2012, when you have that kind of situation, the prime actually expands out to the edge of the delineated wetland. So the prime actually expanded based upon our wetland flagging to basically encompass the edge of all the wetlands out here. And so the issue is whether or not this particular design provides the protection to the prime that it should have. And the key elements of this are the fact that we have a porous pavement out here, which not only allows us to reduce the size and get well away from the prime, on the average of 75 feet or more away from the prime, but also it basically removes any kind of drainage structures, external drainage structures, and it does really a better job of cleaning water that is stormwater that's going down into the ground. It actually the layers and sands and gravels that make up the layers underneath the porous pavement do a tremendous job in terms of nutrient reduction and cleaning of the stormwater. So definitely the prime wetland will not suffer from any runoff going into the prime wetland. Also, that buffer where it's going to be maintained vegetatively is really going to function to protect the wildlife habitat. So in essence, I'm going to kind of boil this whole thing down to basically saying that the prime wetland has a lot of functions and values, and the design as it has been created here protects all of those functions and values that the prime has. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So the porous pavement is enabling them to maximize the space in terms of the purpose, therefore, because they can stack the vehicles. Right. To do that in a normal parking lot would have to be twice the size, probably. And that would not be able to be built here.
It actually, even if the area just to make it porous, then all of a sudden you're going to see all of these detention basins all over the place that are treatment that would basically be closer to the prime than what we have right now. Right now, we're going to maintain that in a naturally wooded state, which is really the best way. I mean, it's a mature forest there. It's got a lot of understory. And anytime you can maintain that kind of mature buffer that's already well established is vastly better than replacing that buffer with detention basins. So it is the fact that not only you get your great treatment from the porous pavement, but it allows this to become a much more compact and less intrusive use of the upland next to the prime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, I have one more question.
Yes, Jen.
And I'm not really sure who this question is directed to, but we were just talking about, cleaning up the front of this property adjacent to Holland Way, but I'm just looking at that, and does the property owner even they don't own that property. That's all part of the right of way. It looks like the parking lot's basically going up to about 10 feet of the right of way, and that area is going to be that's kind of in the existing tree line. So I guess my question is just, can they clean it up and landscape it and maintain it? Do they have the right to do that, I guess, is the question. I mean, it'd be great, but I'm just wondering if it's feasible.
I'll take that.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, I think it's, it's at their own risk, because if we need it, they don't have any rights to it. There's no adverse possession against the municipality. So, they would do it, and, I would say work with Jay Perkins, the highway foreman. It's done all around a lot of projects. They add sidewalks and they add a grass panel in the right of way, and then we take it over from there. So I don't think it's an issue. I would just have them work with the DPW about the plantings and what, where they wouldn't mind them. They probably want them backed off the sidewalk, some distance. So the roots don't get into their infrastructure. And I don't know what they have. I don't think water and sewer is down. It's not down Holland Way, so I don't think there's any utilities under there to worry about. But it can be done. It can be done. Work through the DPW to do it.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. I think we can definitely touch base with the DPW and see what we can do there. If we can't accomplish what we want to within that right of way, we'll do the best we can within the confines of our property. I think Jen had a great idea about utilizing that swale area. It's a nice big green area. I think that's a great spot for plantings. We could take a look at some of those flatter areas she spoke about within the property, that maybe we can find some trees that we can find a nice blend between snow storage and trees, and then take a closer look at that front tree line. It's a 10-foot green buffer between the property line and our parking lot. And some of those thinner areas, if there's a 30-foot gap between large caliper trees that looks a little bare, maybe we can jump on that and add some shrubs and some other plantings to punch it up. So I think we can coordinate with that and maybe come up with a plan that we can get in front of Mr. Sharples and see if we're heading in the right direction. And we can definitely talk to DPW and see what we have available to us. Again, it's not our property, but we can definitely touch base with and see what we can make happen.
That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jen, for bringing that up. Pete Cameron, I see something waving ahead above your head, Pete.
Oh, yes, I'm going back to this issue of security. In other words, the only security here are going to be the lighting. There's no. My eyes are not helping me read the plan, but there's no fencing around this area. Then, is there? Or am I just missing it?
No, there is no proposed fencing at this time. Security, as you said, it's primarily done through lighting. I think McFarland Ford is most likely going to have some sort of security camera type system, and we're going to propose signage on the driveway indicating that this parking lot is restricted to staff only. So if anyone's back there who's not staff, they're gonna stick out, and they're not supposed to be back there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Any other items?
Pete Steckler and Gwen both have their hand up.
Okay, Pete Steckler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a question for Mr. Gove. It's not clear to me from your memo whether prime wetlands are going to be impacted by this project or a wetland that's not designated prime. Can you clarify that?
Yes. So in the law or the change in the prime wetland law that I was referring to in 2012, one of the aspects of that, the reason why the legislature took that up and made those corrections to the prime wetland law is because there was questions about how does one delineate a prime wetland in the field. So, and it was never been clarified. So, like for instance, there's a spot down in Salem where the prime wetland goes through the middle of the Coles and that parking lot. Now, that was not that Coles ever filled the prime wetland. It's because the aerial photo that was utilized to create the prime wetland mapping was a little bit out of date. So the question that came up was how does one actually determine where the edge of a prime wetland is when you have these kind of discrepancies that occur between on-ground existing conditions and an aerial photo interpretation? So the changes that were made is that a prime wetland had to be at least 2 acres in size. The edge of the prime wetland would be the edge of the delineated jurisdictional wetland boundary. That the prime wetland would have to have at least 4 of the 12 functions, and that any place where you had a narrowing of the prime wetland down to less than 50 feet wide, in other words, like a finger or like a tributary or a narrow ditch, that where that narrowed down to less than 50 feet wide, the prime wetland boundaries stopped there. So they wanted to just kind of maintain that bigger boundary, the bigger areas of wetland, and not like the fingers that they could extend quite some distance into upland. So in this particular instance, where we have the road, the area is actually narrower than 50 feet wide. And so that the prime wetland actually stops before we get to the proposed road crossing. It is still a jurisdictional wetland area. It's not that we can cross that without a permit. And an application has been made to the Department of Environmental Services, and we're awaiting them to provide that permit. The timing just hasn't completed yet. In other words, they have 50 days to do it. And we actually had a pre-application meeting with the department, and they agreed that the prime wetland boundary stopped where it was, and that we were crossing a wetland, but not a prime wetland, at that location of the proposed crossing. So it's a minimum impact application because it's only it's well less than 3,000 square feet. It's actually 1,300 square feet. And so essentially we're crossing a wetland, but we are crossing a prime wetland.
Thank you. That's very helpful. One follow-up question regarding the conditional use permit that I'm struggling a bit with based on how the project was introduced is condition 2, where it states no alternative design which does not impact a wetland or wetland buffer, or which has less detrimental impact on the wetland or wetland buffer is feasible. And we heard the applicant or the applicant's representative say that they didn't even pursue talking to DOT for a curb cut to go in from Holland Way. And I guess in my opinion, if we're truly trying to avoid wetland impacts, that at least we'd look into that rather than assuming it was more trouble than it's worth to meet the condition number 2 of a conditional use permit. So that's something I'm struggling with a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, you all set, Pete?
Yep, thanks.
Okay, Gwen, you were next, I think.
I don't know if anyone wants to discuss Pete's comment, but I'm just going to kind of go back to Jen's thoughts again and just let the applicant know that we do have a tree committee in town that's a fairly new committee. It's an offshoot of the Conservation Commission, and Jay Perkins, who works with DPW, is our tree warden and is an active member of this committee. And as a group, we certainly are encouraging the planting of street trees. And I have no doubt that Jay would be more than enthusiastic. I can't speak for him, of course, but I think he'll be enthusiastic about this and would be more than happy to work with the applicant in choosing if you were going to ask him for help in helping you decide what kind of trees can go in here. And I'm sure he'll be quite amenable to that. So I just wanted to pass that along to you. Thank you.
I know he got his Mustang convertible from us. He's quite a nice guy. So I've exchanged emails with him in the past. So.
Good. He's a great guy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Aaron, you have your hand up.
I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just had a question about, Jen brought up, and I just think it's worth clarifying ownership. Typically, property owners own to the middle of a road. So although the right of way is a right, the property owner could landscape up to where that's being utilized, I believe, unless there's some other agreement on Holland Way. Isn't that right, David?
It can be on a lot of right of ways that are older, where they weren't fee simple. The state owned this, though, before Holland Way, and it was part of the Urban Compact. I haven't researched it, but if it's a fee situation, then no, they don't own to the middle. But if it's a non-fee and it's simply a right-of-way, an easement, a right to access, then you're correct. So, but I don't know which one this is.
And I would say in either case, it's quite common practice for landscaping work to be done in that area at the owner's risk, essentially. We approve that stuff all the time in town. So I don't think that should hold us back in any kind of requirement or request. And I guess the question I would have is, if some members of the board are discussing landscaping at this length, it's always helpful if there's some clarification for an applicant as to exactly what you're looking for, so that it's easier for Dave to enforce down the road.
Well, I'm thinking in this case, it looks like a little planning's needed on the part of the applicant that he could put together with.
I bet you, Lang, my definition on a little planning and Jen's are two different things. You know what I'm saying?
No, oh yes, yeah. It's nice to have it all written down, but I'm not sure and drawn out. But you know,
yeah, I think we can take a look at some options for spacing, species, and come up with something that maybe we can present to Mr. Sharples and then go from there?
I have never been in favor of that. If the board wants this, they really should ask for the plan and revise, and it should come back to the board. I don't want to be the discretionary. I am not the decision maker on this. It's the planning board.
Yeah.
So with something like that, I without direction, I would ask the board either make a, specific condition and agreement as we have in the past, or request a revised plan for your review.
Understood.
I mean, if it's okay, I'll chime in on this since I think the question was directed my way a little bit. Personally, I think I would like to see a plan and put off on approving this. But obviously, if others of the board want to move forward, then it could also be a condition. I think specifically what I would like to see is some, street trees along Holland Way, and cleaning up that area. And then I would personally like to see some street trees in the areas adjacent to the parking lot that are being cleared. There are some places that are being cleared that are not designated snow storage. So I think those would be good opportunities to put some nice, good sized shade trees in. And then again, like I mentioned, at the swale at the entrance. And in that location, I think probably more shrubs or, low growing multi-stem trees like an amelanchier or something would be appropriate in that location. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much more detail I can get into like verbally over a planning board meeting as to what I'm looking for. I think it's a robust enough, a big enough kind of change. I mean, the fact is, like, there's no planting plan in this submission, and that, given the amount of space being cleared, I think that's a big missing piece that I would really like to see the applicant submit in order to do this plan.
I would agree with you, Jen. We're not talking about a few trees. It's more than a condition.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think what we can do, the tree committee, I think is a great idea, and I think some coordination with members of that committee, coming up with a plan and coming back to the board for the next meeting. I think from what I'm hearing, I think that's the right call, and I think we're amenable to accomplishing that for the board.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Gwen, excuse me.
I think we're heading in the right direction, and I'm really pleased that the applicant is willing to focus a little bit more on this. I am nervous about the tree committee giving you advice because we're not landscapers. We're all passionate about the trees and the health of our trees in our community, but we're not licensed landscapers and landscape architects. So for our committee to advise you on the types of plants that should go in here, I would be reluctant to say that would be great. I'd feel more comfortable if you sought the advice of a landscape architect who knows the trees and can advise you in a more professional capacity. And I think, getting trees that are appropriate for the conditions of the soil, advising you on native trees, native plantings, that's something that I know that the tree committee is concerned about. We really stress the planting of trees that are appropriate for this area and are not invasives. But I don't think it would take, and I would defer to Jen on this, but I don't think it would take a lot to develop a plan here. But I'm not sure the tree committee we'd be clapping and applauding you the whole way, but I don't think we're the ones that should be telling you what would be good in these locations. Does that make sense to you? I hope.
Yeah, no, that I understand that. I think someone who has more expertise in landscaping is someone that can assist us on this. So I think what we can do is have an expert on landscaping consult on this project, and we'll get some guidance from them, and then come back to you regarding species and type, making sure there's no invasives. That's always important. I think that's something we can accomplish for the board.
Okay. And I think because, personally, I'd feel a lot better about granting the waiver, landscaping waiver in the parking area, knowing that there's going to be some degree of mitigation and an attempt to kind of make up for the considerable amount of clearing that you'll be doing. So, so I thank you for being open to this.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right move. And regarding DPW, when we touch base with them, I think we can look at what they like to see, what they'd want to see for spacing, if we can accomplish that on Holland Way. What a good treescape along the street spacing would be something that the town is looking for.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Aaron, your hand is up again.
Yeah, I would just wanted to make a quick comment. Eric and Wayne from Jones and Beach, your firm is here quite often in front of the Exeter board, not just this board. And I've been on this planning board for 6 or 7 years now, I think. I would just suggest that when you come forward with us, you should expect to have a landscape plan in your package, because we do get into a lot of detail on that. And some of our board's members are quite passionate about that and knowledgeable and can help you tweak it. So if you would head that with you this evening, I think we'd be voting on your plan tonight. And I just wanted to mention that in terms of efficiency for your application, because that's something that we are trying to work on as a board, is trying to help our applicants efficiently move through the process, but we're not looking to cut corners in our process. So the more prepared you come with what we typically require as a board, the more productive for all of us. Because just like you'd like this to be done in one meeting, we probably would too, if you know what I mean. And thank you. I'd want to also say thanks for this project, because this family's been a good member in this community for a long time, and it's nice to see them doing well. So I look forward to seeing this get done for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I would offer, I think that's the only issue. I don't want to use the wrong language here. Concern that we have. I don't think there's any other conditions that we need to have the applicant deal with. So I think we're ready for a motion to table until 2 weeks. Eric, you felt 2 weeks is enough time?
I think we can accomplish that. Okay. We would like to get before the board again as soon as possible. So I think that's something we can accomplish.
7 o'clock on the 25th of March.
That sounds great.
I need a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, before we make a motion, I'm just wondering if we should request that the applicant address the Conservation Commission's condition about the porous pavement sign, so that we don't have to have that as a condition.
Yep. I'll make note of that right now, Jen, and I'll make sure that that's you're talking about the porous pavement sign as you enter the lot.
Right.
Yep. I'll make sure that's included in this resubmission as well, so we don't have to double back on that. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that, Jim. Yep. Okay, I'm ready for a motion. Don't all speak at once.
Mr. Chair, before the motion, I'm wondering if, again, if I'm going to raise the same issue with the conditional use permit, especially condition number 2 next time. It'll be great if the applicant has dug into that a little bit on the avoidance side of things for wetland impacts. Thank you.
Okay. Good point.
Yeah. Pete, I'm making a note of it right now, and I'm gonna take a review. I'm gonna review that and have an answer for you when we come back.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion, please?
You want a motion to table?
Yes, please.
I'll make it.
Table?
Well, David, is there a special song and dance we need for this motion, or is this just a general one which will table this until the meeting of the planning board on
March 25th at 7 p.m.
At 7 p.m.
That's what I thought you said. Is there a second?
I thought I said.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Gwen. All right, let's vote on that. No discussion, I don't think, about the motion. All right, let's start off with John Gruder.
Yes.
And Jen Martell?
Yes.
Gwen English?
Yes.
Molly Cohen?
Yes.
Pete Cameron?
Yes.
Aaron Brown?
Yes.
And I got John Gruder, and I vote yes. So that's the unanimous decision. It will stand, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, members of the board. I appreciate your time this evening.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Wow.
Let's see now. Where was I? Here it is. In the bottom of the file. Okay, other business. We have public. It's a public hearing. Dave, would you like to? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you may recall, it's been a little while, but back on December 17th, 2020, Bruce Mayberry, the consultant the town hired to complete an update to our impact fee, presented the board with some proposed options for amending the capital fee ordinance, which we did, and for updating the school and recreation impact fee schedule. The board held a public hearing or scheduled a public hearing on these matters at their January 14th, 2020 meeting. And you moved the amendment to it, but we never got to the recreational school impact fee schedule. That was tabled and we had a lot going on. So we decided to wait till an open agenda and we earmarked tonight. So if you remember, as discussed at the December 17, 2020 meeting, Mr. Mayberry offered 3 options for both the school and the recreation fees and labeled them A, B, and C. And the select board, the ordinance requires the planning board accepts, the select board adopts, or vice versa, but it takes both bodies. So I looked at prior action on this the last time you updated them, and the process was go to the select board, get their opinion, go to the planning board, get their opinion, and if they concur, go back to the select board for the formal adoption of the fees. So we went to the select board and they reviewed the fees and they recommended the adoption of option A for both fees as recommended by staff. And option A on both is the lower fees, but the rationale behind recommending option A was that they were the most conservative estimates and the town could always revisit them based upon future capital expenditures. and the planning board discussed making this a topic of their annual capital improvement program process. And that's how we could integrate making sure we're reviewing these fees. But the option A was basically taken on what we spend now and the B and C improvement items, like for example, C was dependent upon the rec complex, but that fit the warrant article and, failed at the voters. And I don't think there's an impetus to bring it back. Certainly wasn't brought back this year, so they'll have to decide when that comes back. But when and if those larger projects happen, we can adjust the fees at that time. I did provide you two motions, one for the school impact fee and one for the recreation impact fee, should you get that far with the option A, B, or C. Also included in your packet, I did provide, and I've provided these before, but it's been a few months. The impact fee updates for the school and the rec, both dated October 16th, 2020 from Bruce Mayberry, where if you want to look at the rec fees, just on page 1, you'll see the options A, B, and C. So that's what you're looking at. You can see average capital investment is A, B, modest future improvements, and then C is with major improvement at Rec Park. Obviously, we're not at C. And at this point, staff believes we're more apt to be at A, but with the ability to adjust as we go on. And he did such a thorough report on these that we wouldn't have to go through the update of this information. Just for the foreseeable next few years, we would be able to adjust our fees based on this document here. And then if you want to look at the options in the school fee, go to page 17, and those are where the option A, B, and C are listed. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions the board may have on this. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Thoughts, concerns? I think we discussed it fairly thoroughly when it was presented and asked questions with our consultant.
I have one question, if I may.
Yes, Nancy.
So I like the idea. In our previous meeting, we talked about looking at this as part of the capital improvement program process. Should that be part of the motion, or does that not need to happen?
Dave?
I would ask you what we're doing right here is updating the fees as of now, back to the select board. I guess I'm thinking myself, if you wanted to make a separate motion, it might be easier to separate them and say, that we will revisit this during the capital improvement program process.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was even necessary, if that just would happen or not. That was my question.
It will just happen. That's why I put it in my memo. It's in my mind. I keep saying it, so hopefully if some reason it slips my mind, it won't slip the other 11 of us mind. So we go through the capital improvement process. We'll make sure we'll look at what the expenditures are on the rec side, because on the school side, the school's a different situation here in Exeter. We don't have authority. They have a school budget. They adopt their own budgets, but we could definitely look at the CIP items of our recreational proposals and see if they need to be adjusted.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else? I'd be willing to hear a motion if you are so inclined. Or other questions you may have.
I can make a motion, Lang.
Okay, thank you.
I move that the planning board adopts option A as the update to our school impact fees as set forth in the table in section H1 on page 17 in the 2020 impact fee update, public school facilities, Town of Exeter, New Hampshire, dated October 16th, 2020 by Bruce Mayberry.
Thank you. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Peter. Any discussion on the motion? Then I will call for the vote. Molly, let's start with you this time.
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
John Gruder?
Yes.
Pete Cameron?
Yes.
Aaron Brown?
Yes.
And me, and I say yes. Motion passes.
All right, I can do the next one.
Okay.
I move that the planning board adopts option A as the update to our recreation impact fees as set forth in the table in section A, executive summary, in the 2020 impact fee update, public recreation facilities, Town of Exeter, New Hampshire, dated October 16, 2020 by Bruce Mayberry.
I'll second it.
Dave, is there a section that should be referred to in this motion?
I just
As
did.
it wasn't.
It was the executive summary. It
Got
wasn't in the section. That's why I put in section A, executive summary.
That's fine. And you seconded that, Pete?
Yes.
Cameron, thank you. All right, any discussion? Then I'll call a vote again. Let's start with Aaron this time. Aaron?
Yes.
And Pete Cameron?
Yes.
Molly Cowan?
Yes.
Gwen English?
Yes.
Jen Martell?
Yes.
John Gruder?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Motion carries. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Now I got to find my agenda again. Here it is. Any planning?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
These planning department comments?
Oh, no, I was just going to, I'll jump right into that, but I just wanted to, thank you for the adoption. What's going to happen now is I'll bring it to the select board, I believe at their March 29th meeting to formalize it, and then they will be, effective at that point. So that's the next steps on that. And board items, is that next, Mr. Chairman, you said?
Yes, sir.
I just got a couple. I'm sure you all aware of the results the other day. It was all warrant articles passed. I thought that's all the zoning amendment passed. Updating the impact fee ordinance as Bruce Mayberry suggested. And just like to thank all of you. I think it underscores your work at the planning board and the information to the residents. They're definitely, informed and understand what they're voting on because all the CIP items have passed. So, thank you for your efforts and due diligence on those documents because I think it helps get the information out so people can know what they're voting on. So thank you. To a couple, Salem Street project, the sludge lagoon removal, everything that they proposed that was in the CIP that went forward got approved. Also, not in the CIP, but it was a late addition, the solar array at the Crossroad landfill was approved by the voters. So that's a pretty exciting project. We still have a ways to go on that. We're just filing the interconnection study. So waiting to hear back from the utilities to see, what upgrades, if any, are necessary to accommodate the proposal. And also there's Senate Bill 109 that we're hopeful to pass that will allow net metering above a megawatt and will allow this project to move forward, which we're very hopeful before that this legislation will get through this year. And as far as an update today from a couple of the bill sponsors, it's still positive. So hopefully that will go through, and the solar array at the Crossroad landfill will become a reality. So excited about that project as well.
So that's a town project.
That is a town project. There were two options when we went out for a request for proposal, looking at a lease agreement or some other type of agreement. And Revision Energy proposed a lease. So did another firm, but which would have been just leasing the land to the town. But this,
I see.
So an investor would go in, build the solar array, and reap the benefits from that as an investment. The Revision Energy proposed direct ownership for basically the town to act as the investor and build the solar array, sell the renewable energy credits, and sell the power. And it was very attractive as far as from Revision Energy's proposal. You can see it, it's on our website, but they had it a cumulative positive cash flow starting in year one of operation. So it made money in year one and continued and made about $1.8 million of revenue after 25 years to the town, about $4 million after 30 years, and up to almost $7 million at the end of its useful life, which estimated at about 40 years.
Okay, thank you for that information. Anything else for the good of the order? Aaron?
Motion to adjourn?
Yes. Anybody else want to second that? I'll declare that we are adjourned. Thank you so much for attending tonight and working through the project and your points. And I truly appreciate your time. I mean, this has always been a great board. I've been around a little while. This is a terrific board, and it just, our planning department and staff and Dave and Barb and, the whole gang there. We're fortunate to have them in Exeter. So good night and enjoy the weekend.
Good night.
And I got my tie, I got my 4-season tie on because you see it's going to be snowing not tomorrow, but this weekend.